Morning. It's
Hello, darling.
Sunday, the
I
6th of April, and
yes.
my mother is in Melbourne. So we're doing Grumpy Old Women Talk Politics on Zoom. And hi, Mum.
Hello, darling.
How's it going down there in Melbourne?
Beautiful Melbourne.
What's the weather like?
Freezing. It's not freezing, but it's cold compared with what we used to up there.
Well,
I
yes,
think it's probably about 14 something.
14.
I know the sun's shining, but it's bracing
I
outside.
hope you've got some decent coats. It's beautiful
Yes,
here.
yes,
So yes, it's nice. This is the kind of feels like autumn now, doesn't it? Anyway,
certainly does.
we've both been watching Insiders in our respective houses. And what did you think of it, Mum, today?
Well, I like Nikki Savva a lot because
You
she's
didn't
done
used to, did you?
complete turnaround.
Yeah.
She used to be so pro coalition for the Liberal Party, and now she's turned completely around and written a book even about Morrison. I
Yeah.
mean, it was his term that ruined him and ruined her for the coalition.
Yeah.
So now she's a big supporter of, as far as I can make out.
So those people who don't really watch Insiders, which at the moment is during the election campaign, it's going for 90 minutes. So if you're into it, you get that extra half an hour. Um, the interviewer is it's hosted by a guy called David Spears, and every week they have three different journalists who come on and they kind of have a discussion panel. And David Spears usually interviews a politician. Today he interviewed two politicians, David Littleproud and Penny Wong. David Littleproud is the leader of the Nationals, and his electorate is up in Queensland. It's a little electorate.
Quilty, I think. Quilty?
Is it Quilpie? I thought it was no, I don't think it is Quilpie, but
Anyway, they're having,
Albanese was up there this week during the week, which was I thought pretty great. And he was because that is the electorate that voted most overwhelmingly against the referendum. So they're big no voters up there. But Albany
yes,
still went up there, and somebody said, "Why are you going up there and spending time in a safe National Party seat?" And he said, "Well, I'm the Prime Minister for all of Australia." So,
yes.
and he went up there and he had the mayor on side and talked about some really great things. And I have to say, to David Littleproud's credit this morning, he actually did acknowledge that visit and he
He
thanked the
did.
Prime Minister.
And
for the-
yes, thanked him. That
And
was amazing.
I thought that was really great that he took a more bipartisan approach, which we never ever see from Peter Dutton. So that was
So
mm,
um, I made a few notes about things. Turnbull's come into the picture because he has just spent 2 days talking to people who know about international relations and stuff. I don't know if you could get a recording of this particular thing he did on this last week with 100 um, very well known people who know about international relations, including Gareth Evans. Now, I've tried to find that, but I haven't found it. He
oh,
also did a press conference the next day, which was all about AUKUS, actually, and how it's really imperative for the government to develop a plan B. Because with the way things are going, the way Trump is acting, I don't think we can trust him what he's going to do in the future. Anyway, I listened to that, and it was good. A really interesting thing he said this week, which is it's probably old Chinese saying, you can't fatten a pig on market day, talking about how the coalition keeps saying we're going to release our findings, our policies, and they haven't done it.
Mm.
And here we are, 3 weeks.
Nikki Savage, 2 weeks before pre-poll opens.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
Anyway, that was Malcolm Turnbull. He wasn't
Yes.
on Insiders, but
He
we
was. I'm just telling you that he is coming into the picture. So I don't know whether it's good for the party, for the Liberal Party, or the Labour Party, or anybody else. But he doesn't seem to. He doesn't care about that. He is giving his ideas.
Well, they also rolled out John Howard, didn't they?
Yes, that's right.
Ancient.
All his old politicians, MPs.
Yeah, all with their 2 cents worth. It's quite interesting. I think that there's a sense that the bigger picture in Australia is Donald Trump, and everybody's very, working out, well, what are we? Who are we? Who are we as a country, and how are we going to move forward? That's why it brings us to Penny Wong, the interview with Penny Wong, which I thought was excellent. And of course, I am a big fan of Penny Wong. I think she always speaks so clearly. I always understand everything that she's talking about. Well, no, I understand everything she's saying. I might not understand the deeper things of what she's talking about, but I understand what she's saying. And she talked about how she has been working with her team for the past 3 years on the Southeast Asian strategy.
Yeah.
Is about strengthening relationships with China and other countries in Southeast Asia, and that India is now Australia's 4th largest trading partner. I didn't know that. And so all of that's been going on in the background for quite a long time. Hasn't been getting big headlines or anything, but they've been working on opening up new markets. Perhaps they saw it coming. I don't know. But it really does bode well for the future. And Australia, of course, we ended up with 10% tariffs from Trump, which is less than we thought we were going to get. And as somebody, when you hear the Libs go on about it and saying Albanese should have been stronger, and if Dutton was prime minister, he would be over there. Somebody mentioned this morning that Israel, which is one of the USA's closest allies, has 17% tariffs. So if even Israel couldn't get their tariffs, lowered, then I don't know how Australia's got a hope in hell. But anyway, 10%, it's definitely not as bad as, say, Vietnam or Cambodia or countries like that.
Why are they putting such high tariff on Vietnam?
I don't know.
Crazy.
We'll ask an expert about that.
Yes.
So that was how did you find the interview with Penny Wong?
Well, I only saw half of it.
Kind of fangirl.
But she is good. She's great. I would never criticize her because first thing she did as foreign minister was go to all those Pacific islands and China as well. She met up with China.
Fixed a lot of relationships, or she worked on a lot of relationships.
She has worked on a lot.
And, accepting the fact that the Liberals don't seem to want to accept, which is that we are part of Southeast Asia.
Of course we
are not part of Europe. And so our relationships need to be with our neighbours.
Which is what Keating has been saying forever. But anyway, as you know, I'm in Melbourne. So I asked my friends how the population of Melbourne anyway feels about the cost of living and about Albanese. And they're saying, well, it's because Dan became so unpopular, even though he won a big majority in his final election, which was only last year. But Jacinta Allen, she's not regarded as a good politician. I reckon it's because she's feminine, a woman, you know,
Feminine woman,
a
maybe.
woman.
But what are they? But your friends are also are they tending to be Adam Bandt supporters?
No, they've given that up. Actually, 6 years ago, my, my friend Ian had only good things to say about Adam Bandt, and he met him in person and asked him questions. But now they're pretty disillusioned
But
with
it's kind of
the
fun, isn't it, to go to Melbourne and have a good old political chinwag with all your mates down there.
the one thing they're saying is that the Dutton mob are on about the infrastructure, and that how they will draw money back away from infrastructure down here, because I think the federal government has given money to the Victorian
They're
government.
worried about that.
Yes,
I thought
because
that it's promised to build a the airport metro.
well, it may be that they say it's desperately for a decent road system. And
I mean, there were a
metro
couple of
system.
things I watched during the week. One is that when the Libs, Dutton and whatever her name is, did a press conference about that train track
Yes.
miles and miles and miles away. And there was a question from one of the journalists, why are we here? Why are we all the way? And it was really because the planes kind of go behind somehow in the distance, and it just seemed ridiculous. I always find it so interesting to see what's actually happening behind the scenes. Of course, another thing that happened today was that Albanese fell off the stage, and I talked to my friend Gina about that, who does a lot of performance work and staging work, and she said that stage was so dangerous
Oh, really?
because there was a gap, between the back and the wall, and so
No,
inevitably was going to, and unfortunately it was Albanese, but I have to say he sprung back pretty smartly, didn't he?
he did. He was helped to his feet pretty quick, smart.
He was, and he did yeah, I'm fine. But the other big gaff this week was Peter Dutton kicking a football into the head of a cameraman, and then saying, "Is he all right?" Oh, he should have been able to mark that. He should have been able to catch
He
that.
also said, the first thing he said, got him.
Got him.
Somebody said that.
And it's all filmed. It's just like pretty bad. And then, but what made me laugh was that they got the biggest band-aid they could and wrapped his head with this enormous bandage, and they had photographs of the blood coming out, and it was like drama much. So
Yes,
it's
yes,
well, surely it was an
yes.
accident, but
Of course,
thing that looked good on
like when Scott Morrison ran
I
with
called that.
football and knocked over this little kid,
No.
squashed him.
Oh my God. You can't be too careful, guys, out there. Anyway, back to insiders. So talking about the coalition, the three journalists were talking about that and how there's still no policy detail. And as I said before, Nikki Saber said, it's 2 weeks before people start doing pre-poll. It's very
That's right.
late in the day.
Yeah.
And they keep saying to be confirmed, TBC. Um, they're talking about not allowing people to work from home, cutting 41,000 public servants down in Canberra, building a $6 billion nuclear industry, cutting immigration, being tough with Trump,
Cutting the education
cutting
department.
education funding. And Dutton actually said, we don't run schools. I mean, he knows. He's been in politics for 20 years. I suppose he just thinks people don't know and don't check things, which is probably
Well, they don't.
that's right.
It's
And of course,
trouble.
the classic for me was that he announced that he was going to live in Kirribilli. We love the harbour, he said. I'd like to live in Kirribilli too. It's a bloody beautiful house.
I haven't talked to the Melbourne people about that.
Well, I heard Patricia Carvella say, that's why Canberra exists, because of that, the competition between Sydney and Melbourne.
That's right.
It is there for that purpose, that
That's right.
very purpose. So, But none of the Libs want to go and live in Canberra. They all want the big house. It's just ridiculous.
Um, I've got a bad cold, as you hear.
Oh, have you? Oh, that's no good.
Well, just making my voice a bit worse.
You sound good.
The,
I can understand everything you're saying.
the thing I've been thinking about a lot is climate change and how there hasn't been much talk about it.
Mm.
Has there been much talk about it from the Labor Party? I
Well,
wouldn't expect them
what is
coalition.
climate change? I mean, it's massive, isn't it?
It's
It's
massive,
everything. But they are talking a lot about renewables, and that's part of that whole conversation.
they're also opening coal mines.
They're not opening new coal mines. They've expanded some coal mines. That's what they've done.
My sister-in-law said, I I'm a Liberal voter. Um, they don't run up big bills like big debt like the Labor Party.
Yeah, what a funny thing to say.
And my granddaughter, your lovely Lila, said to me, well, no debt in a dead planet.
Mm. Yes. Yes. Well,
That's worth thinking about.
yeah. Um,
I'm just hoping they get back in so they can do the things that they need to do.
that's right.
And that will be getting climate change back on track.
Well, when you consider that Australia is a tiny player in the world, um,
So,
it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything at all. I mean,
no, it
I
doesn't.
believe climate change stuff, a big part of it starts at home with what we do in our own backyards, essentially, using the right bins, for example, Mum.
Recycling, but it's very
Controversial
confused.
topic in our house.
It's very confusing
Well, we've got the
what
sticker
you
on the
put
bin,
in which bin.
but yeah, it's one of those things. It's still an issue, and being on council, I'm really aware of that. And there's been a lot of, as my friend Kate pointed out this morning, there's so much more happening in the Byron Shire around um, emissions and an attempt to kind of move towards net zero,
Yeah,
much more than is happening in other council areas. And I don't really know very much about that, but I was pulled up by that and thought, oh wow, it's pretty great what's happened so far. But there's so much work to do, and we've all got to be part of it.
exactly. And aren't you on the garbage committee for the
I'm on the
council?
climate change
Oh,
and resources committee. So
right.
I'm beginning to learn a lot about waste management and tips and where our rubbish goes and all those things. I mean, I don't know very much, and I'm learning big time at the moment. So, but anyway, and that's a good thing because, you know, this is important, as Lila said,
Totally.
get
Of
on
course.
the
Yeah.
planet. So in the end, as Nikki Savas said again, the constant in this election campaign will be Donald Trump.
Yes, yes.
That is,
Unfortunately.
and that probably people we didn't know what that would mean when he was elected, but now he is hovering over us and everything that we do and all the decisions, and it's caused all of us to feel, I think, pretty anxious and pretty uncertain. And I think, of course, I'm a member of the Labor Party and I'm a big advocate for everything they do. Um, I really think if you look at the work that they've done so far and what they want to continue, if they get a mandate to continue for the next 3 years.
Well, you only have to compare the front bench of the coalition
Yeah.
against the front bench of the government.
Yeah.
They are so much more knowledgeable and,
Yeah.
and good at being politicians.
Anyway, we talked a week ago and it feels like a year because so much is happening every
So
single
much has
day.
happened.
And it's fascinating to watch. And it's the first time really that I've been so engaged in an election campaign. And it becomes a bit addictive, to be honest. I mean, I have never been on my phone so much.
Well, I'm going to Geelong on Tuesday,
Mm.
and I'm going to try to meet Richard Marles.
Oh, great.
And because I was great friends with his aunt,
Oh, right.
who is a huge Liberal supporter.
Yes. He must have been the disappointment in the family.
Yes, I think she used to talk about him quite a lot.
Mm.
So I'm going to try to meet him and talk to him and perhaps do some letterboxing for him, something.
Anyway, I've got all the Labor Party people on my WhatsApp
Oh,
coming
great.
for brunch, and somebody's already arrived, so I better go and set this up.
Who's that?
And this is
Who's
Lyndall. She'd be a grumpy old woman talking politics.
Am I early?
Come on. Here, look, here's Lyndall. This is Aslan's mum.
Yes, I
And
am.
my mum's
You know me.
my mum's in Canberra, in Melbourne, and this is our grumpy old women talk politics.
I watched the last one when you were in Sydney.
So we've just been analysing insiders.
It was very
And
funny, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too, especially Nikki Sava,
Even the,
yes,
the name from the financial
Jennifer
Review,
Hewitson.
even she said a few positive things.
Mm.
Jennifer Hewitt amazed me
Hewitson?
because she is so right wing normally.
She's usually so negative. She said a few positive things.
She did.
And then
yes.
sort of brush
She
it off.
criticised Dutton a little bit.
But it just shows that they don't have much of a leg to stand on, do they? Because if
They've
all
got
she
nothing.
can say is, oh, well, when Peter Dutton said 5 days, we should be in the office for 5 days. And she said, oh, but, maybe only 3. It was, well, it's not really a
She did
massive
say-
election.
She did make a big point of the fact that they really got to get their act together now.
That's right.
Time's run out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to see that detail from the Libs. Can't wait.
Okay.
To be confirmed, Liberal Party.
I might have some news for next week.
Ooh.
Like if I get to see the minister, the deputy prime minister.
Because she's going.
Yeah, well, you're in Melbourne, so you go out to all that stuff that's going on down there. That'd be great.
Well, that's right. I have talked to my friends a bit, and they're saying Jacinda is. I wish she's okay. What's wrong with Jacinda? She's not a man. She's not. They hated Dan Andrews by the end, and so, which is
Your friend
she's taken this poison chalice as women often do in politics, and that's what it's turning out to be.
Tough
Anyway,
to be in
have
politics.
a good party. Have a good week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Matt. And you guys, everybody, we'll see you. We'll be back again next Sunday with our next episode of Grumpy Old Women Talk Politics.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.